Good evening. This is our second session of a four-session cycle. And today we're calling this $5 Engaging Play. I'm Dana, Mr. D, also known as Mr. D, and I'm going to act as the facilitator. And then we have Patrick, who's going to moderate behind the scenes for us. He's waving to you. And what we'd like to do is first talk a little bit about housekeeping, and that is that if you have a question, you can always hit the box. I think it's called reactions, and then if you hit the thumbs up, that lets me know that something's resonating with you. But more importantly, hit the hands up if you have a question or you want to make a statement. And if we have you muted, we'll unmute you and stop and make sure we're good with that. Of course, if you need to leave, there's a way of stopping your camera and getting off and all that. And there's a chat, and we'll use the chat in our opening activity for our icebreaker. So with that, let's go to our PowerPoint to look at our agenda for the next few minutes. So Patrick will take us to the PowerPoint, and so what we'll have is the agenda, which is what we're looking at, the greetings we've had, and introductions will happen as part of our Icebreaker 2. And that's going to be the next screen. We'll have a little talk about what I mean by addictive, engaging play. And then we'll also do a couple of activities that I think are engaging and also addictive. And then of course we'll have the final activity, which will be a reflection on what we just spent this time doing. So having said that, let's go to the icebreaker. So in the icebreaker, what I'd like to do is to have you to sign in to the chat. After you sign in with your name, in the chat box, I'd like you to post one thing that is true about you that you believe no one else in this group can claim to be true about themselves. And when you put that in, we're going to look at it as a group, and we'll have each person explain if it needs explanation, or at least identify what that thing is, and we'll query the rest of us to make sure that you are unique. Now, if you happen not to be unique, if a hand goes up saying that they are also sharing that particular unique thing that you have, then it's your job to find and think of something else unique about yourself to post. And we're going to do that until we all find out that we are more alike than we thought, or certainly we have to go a long ways to find unique things about ourselves. And I'll start. And in my chat box, I said, that I used to dunk basketballs. And you don't know it, but if I stand up, you probably figure out why a basketball was placed in my hand as a young junior high school student. I'm 6'5" now. It's probably 6'3" or 4" then. And of course, it'd be easy for me to dunk a basketball. Don't dunk anymore, though. Oh, none of you ladies and you men have dunked the basketball before? Oh, it doesn't count if it's not regulation. I'm sorry. Nice try. Dunking your toddler's basketball does not count. I can do that with two hands reverse and, well, never mind. Okay. Well, I guess we'll move on now to our talk about engagement and play. So, before we start that, I want to mention again that Arts and Scraps is our organization. And if you go to our website, artsandscraps.org, you'll find out more than you ever wanted to know about Arts and Scraps. All the different activities that we do, all the different outsources and insources that we have, and the store, etc. So please visit that. There's a lot of things that will help you. We have some videos and stuff. So that's all we're going to say. Other than that, what we essentially do is we take things that are scheduled for being trashed, and if it's cool and clean and safe, we accept it and we process it, and then we use it to have fun and also to learn with hands-on activities with children of all ages. And the active, addictive, engaging play. So when I think about the addictive, engaging play, what I mean is those kinds of activities that keeps a child engaged for a long time, and also that they would come back to it. So it has to be something that's stimulating enough, not a one-offer. And also it tends to be something that branches off with other kinds of investigations or other kinds of experimenting, because it gets redundant. Redundant activities gets boring. But if you've got an activity that challenges a child to go off and investigate other variables or other aspects, and just lends itself to that, then it sort of keeps giving the fun that keeps giving, so it keeps them engaged. And the addictive part of it is that there are things that are just soothing to do. They just, either the product is so nice and soothing, and the process is so soothing and so enjoyable that we tend to just love doing it. I think of the adult coloring books out that are now. I have some, but I haven't engaged in it. But I can imagine that just getting a coloring book and randomly coloring different colors is a very soothing thing to kind of ease your mind in that for an adult. And there's those kinds of activities for children also. So that's the kind of thing that I'm going to be focusing on today. A couple of activities that I consider to be addictive and also engaging. And engaging also brings to the mind that we do want our children to be thinking when they're enjoying whatever play they're having. We like higher order skills to be developed, critical thinking, some of the processing skills that they need to learn. So all of that's valuable when you can have them having fun and also exercising things that's going to help them to better themselves. So now we'll go to our activities. First one I have is what we call salt glitter. So salt glitter requires sidewalk chalk, and I didn't put that here, but you need colored chalk, you need salt, and then I have optional sea salt, kosher salt, pickling salt. And that I have as an option because as a process of doing this, that becomes something that just naturally kind of would be a good question to ask a kid in the process of what do you think would happen if we changed the salts from normal table salt to these others. White paper glue, Elmer's is popular, but any paper glue is fine. Paper, of course, and then paper plates or some container that you can process this. So here's the way it goes. And I'll show you the product because I have some already done. So if we can take the screen off and we'll go back to our tabletop screen. So before we get started, now I've got tons of chalk at the job, but I haven't been to the job in a while and things have been moved around. Needs me to change this a little bit so we can get this to where, yeah. Okay, so I went to a dollar store. Actually, I had my spouse to go into a dollar store, and she picked this up for me for $1. Now, when I looked at it, I got excited. I saw that there was 11 different colors here, and they're all different colors. And then this one, yellow, I said, well, that's repeat. And I thought 24, so maybe there's actually 24 different colors in here. It certainly suggested it by the packaging, but on close inspection, actually after looking in and finding that there's really only 6 different colors. There's 24 chalks, but there's 4 of each. And it says dustless colored chalk, and it just says 24. It does not say 24 colors. So needless to say, I was a little disappointed. So being the way I am, I went in and I put all the colors together, and then I broke off a piece from each of the 6. I don't think I took yellow. I'm not real moved by yellow. But anyway, but what we have at Arts and Scraps is we get this kind of stuff all the time. So I've got like tons of broken pieces of chalk, probably artist chalk, sidewalk chalk, just all sorts of chalk. But what we do is we just simply take some salt, and instead of having a paper plate, in this case, I have these little plastic bins. And you sprinkle some salt in, and you take a piece of the sidewalk chalk, and you rub it on the side, as you see me doing. Let me move this out of the way so you get a good picture of me. And so one of the things I probably would start with is I would ask the child, when we're doing this process, how dark do you think this is going to get? Do you think if I rub it a long time, it'll get really deep, rich, red? And the kid may say yes, may say no. It makes sense that the more you put in, the longer you do this, it should get darker and darker. And then it's, of course, well, let's find out. And so you give the kid the chalk, and they move it around. And part of the conversation is, I wonder why this chalk is being pulverized or powdered by this sand. And it's a mineral, salt's a mineral. And the reason I asked for an optional magnifying glass is that we could actually look at the crystals, and we would see that these are little cubes. Each little salt crystal is a cube. That's one of the characteristics of minerals. And there's different shapes for different minerals, but being a mineral, there are hard minerals and soft minerals. And part of how we identify different minerals is by hardness tests. I think it's called Murray's hardness test. I'm not sure. You can always Google that. But like talc is considered to be one of the softest, or probably the softest mineral, and diamond, of course, is the hardest. And then if you do a scratch test, and something that you think is a mineral is able to be scratched by something else, then it's considered to be harder or softer. And in this case, we have something that's very close to talc, and then we have a pretty hard crystalline salt. So the salt is very abrasive, and it ends up taking the chalk and nicely pulverizing it. So after your child has done this for a bit, the answer to that question becomes, is it any darker? No. And they would find out by this experience that it doesn't get any darker than the chalk. And then you could reason as to why. Well, certainly you're starting off with white in it, but also what you have has a certain intensity, and I don't care how much you pulverize it, it doesn't make sense that it would get any darker. But certainly if you do a little bit, you can have it lighter than that. So, having done that, what do we do with this nice sand glitter? That's where the paper comes in. So we've got a piece of paper, and we've got our glue. And if we smear our glue on, we could make patterns, we could make dots, pictures, whatever we wanted to do. I'm going to do a few dots here. Okay, I'm doing 6 dots, and I'm going to smudge them because I want them to be nice and slow there. And now we have a surface that you would think our glittered salt would stick to. So we'll get another little scooper. Should have brought a little spoon, that would have been nice. But I'm going to use a little piece of paper to scoop it up. And I like to not mix my sand, so I'll hold it over the color that I've scooped up, and I'll just simply sprinkle it on. Arts and Scraps is marvelously known for dealing with sprinkles and with stickies. And then I'll get it off. And of course, the sand adheres to the glue. Let's go with another color, some of these other dots. And so if you wanted to do a structured picture, and that's part of discussion, that say you wanted to have a nice outdoor scene with the trees and maybe a home, etc. How would you be able to do it having this messy kind of sprinkling and knowing that whatever it touches is going to cover? And just like we find out in all of our outdoor activities with children, once a color is covering a sticky part, you can put another color on it and it has no place to stick. And so that gives a hint as to how you could get a multicolored picture to evolve. See, and I put it all over this, and then it's still the green, it's still green, red's red. So on cardboard or paper or whatever, it's a nice thing to do. And I earlier did this one. My idea was to do a tree, but I didn't have my red made, so I had my grass and my sky, and this is the trunk of the tree, and this is the orange. Let's see, we'll call it a fall tree. How's that? And so kids will have fun with this, I think. And you just find that it's very addictive as you're grinding this down. It's a nice thing to do. And when you, if and when you get our scrap bags, we have these white stickies, and they have a surface covering the sticky part, and those things can be cut up into various objects and stuck on the sticky, exposing part of the sticky, and they can cover with sand certain parts and then remove those and cover it again with another color, and they can do really intricate and detailed pictures. So there's a lot of opportunities and chances to do stuff. And so the question would be now, I wonder what happened if we had a different salt. And so that's why I had these optional salts. So if you happen to have kosher salt, it might be nice to go in and look at that under the magnifying glass and see if it has the same structure as the table salt. Same thing with the sea salt, the pickling salt, noticing any differences, and then try grinding it and see if it produces a different kind of a glitter, and work with that. And that's kind of a way that you could change this. So you've got the glue option, you've got stickies as an option. We have dark stickies, we have light stickies. Question being which one would be most, would contrast most, and that's another experience that the children can do. And it would keep them busy for a while. And as many colors of sidewalk chalk as you have, that's as many containers that you would have. Now, another option is this. If you had clear little bottles, medicine bottles, etc., there's little glass bottles, and that a very popular item that you can buy from a lot of places is to buy sand and fill the bottles with layers of colors of sand. Well, the same thing can be done with this. And you could use things that you already have here. You'd have to have a stopper or a top on it. And ideally, you want to fill it all the way up to the top so that it wouldn't lose whatever structure you put in it. But some very intricate things have been done by sticking pins inside of each layer to change the outside of it, to have little ebbs and flows and that. And as long as you don't shake it, you can layer it and make some really cool ornamental kinds of things. So that's another thing that's fun to do. All right, now we'll move over to our next activity, and I picked this because it's pretty much using the same main object, and that is our salt. So our chalk. So I'm gonna take my pieces of chalk out of my bins, and you'll see I have the pink, and then I had green, and like I said, they had two colors of green, two shades of green on the box, but there's really only one. And they had 1, 2 shades of blue. They have purple on the box, but there's no purple. The brown they had is this brown, and I could probably get this a little darker. Yeah, I'll take that out. And then the orange. And then there was yellow, and I didn't pick the yellow out. I think as a school teacher, I used so much yellow chalk that I now really don't have a big fancy for yellow chalk. I like the colored chalks more. Okay, so in this situation, we need a container to hold water. And I have the smaller container. Now, you probably want a nice bigger container, enough to hold an 8 by 11 piece of paper, depending on the size of the paper. I cut mine into 4 pieces so that it'd be easier to show you. And what you're looking at in my case is I've already done what I'm going to tell you to do now a lot earlier, and it has sank to the bottom. So the surface tension did not hold it on the top of the water. So you're just going to simply take whichever colors you think you'd like to take, and I've got my plastic serrated knife, and I'm simply just going to sort of scrape away different colors in here. And because of the surface tension and probably the density of this, it just sort of floats on the top, which is just what we want to happen. And you can put as little or as much as you like to put in, and mix colors if you like. I think I'm going to do blue and green with this one. And I tell you, I can see this kind of thing being something that would keep you occupied for a long time. And what you're doing is producing this wonderful marbleized thing. So then after you've got it in there, you might want to swirl it a little bit. And in swirling it, it'll give it ideally some kind of different swirls. And you just simply put it on top and then lift it off. And it sort of adheres to the paper. And I'm going to set it on the side to dry. And if I wanted to get rid of this altogether, I would do another one and try to catch all the rest of those particular flakes of that color. And if I'm really trying to get rid of it, I might turn it over and have a two-sided, because I'm just really trying to get rid of everything. And then I let it dry. That's funny. The blue comes out most pronounced, but I can see green also. Let's try another color. I'm going to go with this reddish color here. And you just put whatever colors you might want to sort of have them localized in one part with one color, and maybe put another color in a different part of your tray. It's very faint, but they're in there. Let's see, we'll say, let's do an orange here on this side. And kids might wonder if you grade it in bigger chunks, what would happen? Or if you used, in this case, like chalkboard chalk as opposed to sidewalk chalk, would there be a difference? Different kinds of paper, thicker white paper, thinner paper. And when it dries, okay, so now this time I'm going to put one streak this way, this way, this way. Let's see what we get here. Interesting. It's very faint, but it does do the trick. Here's what I did before I started taping, and it's not dry, but it's drier. And what we find is that it actually does sort of integrate into the paper and it doesn't smear, so it'd be great to write on or use as a wrapping paper for gifts, etc. And it's hard to see, but I'm pretty impressed with that. And of course, the more you put in there, probably the more dramatic it would be. And so that's marbleizing with the paper. And it's just a very soothing thing to do. Now, I don't know, I wonder if you put vinegar as your solvent, or if you used oil as your solvent, etc. I guess it would make a messy paper, but it might be something that a kid would ask, and so you want to let them go ahead and experiment and use different things as they saw fit. Just because I did these two together, the question I have is, I wonder if I take my salty glitter and put it in, I wonder what would happen with that. I'm not going to do it, but that's a question I would have. Now, I know the salt is going to dissolve, and that's another thing you can talk about, salt disappearing in water and stirring the salt in and asking, depending on the age of the kid, what happened to the salt, you know? And then, of course, there's the different temperatures of water that would cause the salt to dissolve faster or slower. And there's saturation points where if you put enough salt in there, it will not dissolve anymore. But if you heat it, it'll continue to dissolve. And if you put a string in it, after super saturating it, as it cools, you get the nice big crystals forming on the string, which is how we get that rock candy. I think they call it rock candy. So there's a lot of different offshoots, a lot of science into playing with those kinds of things. So that's pretty much all I have for the activities. And what I would suggest is doing what I do. I love to go when I have time to Pinterest and I look at the different things. I draw, so I'm looking for different ways of drawing, sketching. Now a hot thing is this dimensional drawing. There's all sorts of little make and takes that move that you can do. And in most cases, they are activities in themselves designed to be a product. But what makes it more akin to our B&a-half teaching, where we're between getting the things that we're going to use to make our product and the product, the variety of things that come into play and experimenting and having fun that enters in can be done with most of those activities that you find on Pinterest. So you're not so focused in on the product, but looking at other ways that along the way you might allow kids to deviate from that, to do experimenting in that. And there's a lot of fun in that too. And then some of them are just great in and of themselves. So that's it for today. Were we to bring up our, yeah, I think we should bring up that PowerPoint. and we'll look at the closing activity, reflection. So for the reflection, and it's part of an evaluation also for me and for you, I have this phrasing of an evaluation of sorts. So in this scenario, we have this flower, and if you think of the thorn, the part that's prickly in a rose, blank, and you'd fill in the blank with a word or a phrase, was challenging for you. So in this process today, something may have challenged you, and maybe you didn't enjoy it, or it was challenging, it wasn't challenging, you just didn't enjoy it. And so I would like you to, if that's one you want to speak to that, and it'll help inform us on how we do these things in the future. So you don't have to speak to all three, but please speak to at least one. Budding is, I'm going to try. Maybe you thought that chalk marbleizing was a grand idea, and you've got a kid that probably would gravitate to that. So, and that when you say, I'm going to try the chalk marbleizing, or I'm going to try the salt glitter, I'm going to try them both, or I'm going to try them, but this is what I'm going to do different from that. And that's why I asked you to post this in the public chat, so that we might glean from others who might have, or they may have already done something like that. So it's a way of sharing. And then the roles would be what you most enjoyed. So maybe you enjoyed finding out that you were unique as a person who dunks basketballs in this group of people that we're with, or whatever else in this process that you enjoyed. You can put that down if you did have that. And please put that in the chat. And once you've done that, there's a process where you can download your chat to your computer. So you want to save the chat and save it, and then you can go back and look in. And in some cases, I'm going to have websites, as I did in the last activity, and you'll need to have those if you're going to go search out those sites. So I want to thank you for spending this time with us, and we're hoping that you come back and spend next week, Tuesday and Thursday, with us with other activities that we're going to do. It's been a pleasure, and I'm very pleased. So signing off, enjoy your night. Bye-bye.